and I've learned 3. Maiko. So Maiko, the tall one, Maiko, look up. This is the founder of Impact Hustlers. I basically didn't give him a choice. I was like, I'm getting involved with Impact Hustlers somehow. And Impact Hustlers as well was actually started out as a podcast. And that was Maiko's side hustle back in 2018. And it's a global audience, and suddenly a global community started building up around him. And today, Impact Hustlers is an online global community. So for the last year, all of our interactions have been online, and we decided actually we need a place or a way for us to connect on a local level, as well as being able to access a global network. So that's what Impact Hustlers is doing today. In terms of, this is the first chapter, the first in-person chapter that we're launching, the one in London. We've got San Francisco launching next month, and we've got Paris launching at Change Now in Paris, obviously, Change Now. And then we've got Berlin and New York coming this year online as well. So we're getting lots of interest from lots of different territories, so watch this space. In terms of back to tonight, what we're doing is we're trying a couple of different formats as part of our launch, and they will be separated out eventually, but we have a fireside chat where we have incredible, impact entrepreneurs like Kenny come and share their stories. And then we're also putting on a fireside chat, an in-person dinner to give those entrepreneurs that are linked to whatever the theme is of that speaker the chance to actually spend more time and get to know each other. So today's theme for the dinner is farm to fork, and anybody that's linked with that will be part of that dinner, and we're going to do these based on different themes throughout the year. So when you put your feedback in later on, you'll have the chance not only to suggest future speakers, but also whether you'd be up for coming to join one of these dinners as well. So now, before we actually start our session with Kenny, there is one person I really do want you all to meet, because he has made this all possible. It's my partner in crime, Ed Brown, who is right there. Come on over, Ed. Ed is from 1762, whose office we are in, and we really, I'm just so indebted to Ed for having been so supportive. He was kind of thrown into this a bit last minute as well. But did he sink or swim? He absolutely swam. I think it's worth just mentioning that at Tech Nation, we first started working with Brew and Dolphin, which is the group RPC Brew and Dolphin, which 1762 is part of, a couple of years ago. And I'll admit, I was a bit suspicious. I was like, I don't know about this. How are they going to really help the founders that I support? And actually, I was blown away by their ethos, which is one of helping access a network, their incredible wisdom around structuring your business, making sure that the founder and their team is okay, and protected as you scale. And certainly, I remember one particular founder having a particular nightmare over some VCs who let him down very last minute. And it was just so great to have people to point him to. So, over to you, Ed, to say hello.
It is good. Look, it's lovely to have you all here. So thank you again for coming in. It's been amazing to be with you as well. We're delighted to be working with Impact Hustlers, and Kenny, thank you for taking that time to do this. Hopefully this will be one of many events that we run, but this is very much a start of 10, and hopefully it will expand from there. We're delighted to be working with Impact. So as Elizabeth said, I'm Edward Brown. I'm one of the wealth advisors here from 1762. So just to give you a little brief background of 1762, who are we and what do we do? So I specifically, and we as a business, look after entrepreneurs throughout their business cycle. We're focused on ensuring they have the right advisors around them, as Elizabeth mentioned, throughout those growth stages. We're able to assist at varying stages, whether that be seed, Series A, Series B, pre-exit, and then hopefully an actual sort of an exit point. Once an entrepreneur has finalised an exit, we look to develop a sort of financial plan to ensure they have visions in place to achieve their evolving aims and ultimately focus on not having to work again. What that then does is allows sort of their underlying entrepreneurship to take over. With a long-term plan in place, it allows clients to start a new venture or take positions in companies they would like to be involved in with knowledge that they have a long-term financial plan in place outside of that. I'm lucky enough, Stephen, to be joined by a number of my colleagues. We've got Alan Gentry, we've got Cam here this evening, and there's two others joining us shortly, Tom Colburn and Emily Rose Nicholson. So if you do want to find out more about what it is and what we do, please do come and find us. We'll get around the room. But as I say, this is an event for impact and Kenny to run through and just to answer to you guys.
Thank you so much. So let me just sit down over here. Just to let you know how we're going to run, we're actually going to have a few comments, like about 25 minutes fireside chat with Kenny. But I really want you all to have the chance, not maybe you all, but I want the audience to have the chance to ask your questions. And we are going to make time for questions at the end, about 15 minutes. So please get your questions ready. And here we are, Kenny. It has been a little bit of a journey getting to this point because there's been the jury service, there's been a bout of COVID, and now the tube strikes. But we're here, we're in person. It's not all my fault. No. But yeah, how are you?
Yeah, after all that, I'm really well.
Yeah, very good. So just in case anybody here doesn't know about WeFarm, can we just start off with explaining what WeFarm was and what the mission was?
Yeah, for sure. So the mission was essentially to build the world's biggest network of small-scale farmers with the idea that by linking them together you could do some very powerful things in the entire ecosystem for what is essentially the world's biggest industry. So WeFarm started as a tool to build an information sharing service. We enabled people through SMS back in the old days to ask questions, share info, use machine learning to understand what they were saying and direct that to other people in the network, and try to get people sharing really useful, mostly basic farming information with each other. And it took off massively in East Africa in particular. We reached about 3.5 million active users at its peak. On top of that, platform we built a marketplace for farmers to be able to buy and sell through us, which was the business model. Ultimately failed, as I'm sure we'll discuss. And we, on the way, built a company of up to about 120 people at our peak, raised about 13 million of venture capital through Series B, and it failed.
And that's why we're all here today, to find out those lessons. Before we dive into all the things you did do right, I would love to hear from you, how does somebody who's based in the UK farmers? So yeah, just talk us through that process.
So I guess my career was wandering before that. As a brief positive issue, I trained as an architect, forced myself to the degree, but knew that wasn't for me. Escaped to South America, where I took a job helping build construction projects for an NGO. Originally for 6 months, ended up staying for almost a decade. So I specialised in building fish farms and water systems, mostly in indigenous communities, which kind of segued me into a very different world. And I think ultimately where the seeds of the WeFarm idea came from, and that really in the communities I worked with, people are super smart, were solving their own challenges, and a lot of the NGOs I worked with were very well intentioned, but very paternalistic, very top down, and really the idea behind WeFarm is to give an alternative source of information. And I was back in London in 2009. I was recruited to be part of the startup team for Cafe Direct, and what became the Cafe Direct Foundation, and an organisation owned by farmers. So then started working directly with the farming supply chains and tea, coffee, mostly in East Africa, and developed WeFarm as a project under that organisation. What would become WeFarm? It was known as Project Grower in those days.
Project Grower.
That's before we knew anything about brand. Yeah, we learn stuff along the way. If people got into it, people, I think, you know, if you're talking to a coffee farmer, it's essentially only ever been talked down to and never been told that their 30 years of experience was valuable. It's quite a powerful thing, and it started to take off, and so took the plunge and set up as a tech startup in 2015. We did have a big team in Kenya, so
did you?
I spent a long time.
Oh, fantastic. So going back to the actual scaling up part, because 3.5 million users is not a small feat, especially given your focus in Africa. When you look back now at your key inflection points in that growth, how do you divvy up those key milestones? Do you look at it as number of staff, like number of users, fundraising? Like, how do you look back and reflect on those key inflection points in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are all obviously interconnected. An amazing investment and be able to push a lot of money into stuff we learned was definitely, you know, huge for us. But yeah, I think number of users is the way we look at it, mostly because we had big parties every time we hit a milestone. 10,000, 100,000, million, the million user party was huge. But I think in real terms, it's figuring out the mechanisms for that. I think what was exciting about getting to 10,000 users was figuring out the acquisition channels. We literally started by individually recruiting farmers onto our platform. You know, hey, would you like to join this? And you know, figuring out from there how do you do that scalably, especially in a non-internet connected world. You know, radio was a big channel for us. Figuring out the cost of acquisition, the money you can put into that. And I think beyond that, it's all about the activation. How do you keep that community super engaged over time and make sure that they're really, you know, doing things day after day, month after month, and that's what probably earners are kind of big investment rounds. And then ultimately becomes a bad machine of, you know, all the parametric stuff. Can you acquire users cheaply? Can you get them to be activated? And can you ultimately get them to spend money on your platform? So, you know, I probably look at figuring out more or less. You never completely figure it out, right? But more or less figuring out those big things as the inflection points.
Yeah, and there's so many ways we could go, but I think because so many people in the room are either fundraising, about to fundraise, have just fundraised, you know, one thing you did very successfully in the end, you know, not in the end, but one of the things you did do very successfully, or a notable success, was your fundraising. Yeah. And I wonder what advice you have for the room in terms of what you felt you did get right in those scaling years.
Yeah, I mean, we did. I mean, enabled us to lose tens of millions of investors' money, so. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think for us it was very much about a few key things. It was very much about powerful storytelling. You know, especially if you're a mission-based company, and you said it's sometimes twice as hard. Definitely very true. It's also sometimes twice as easy. And telling a big powerful story to a VC or get somebody who's doing an advertising algorithm improvement. I mean, you've got the superpower there to be able to tell a very powerful investment story. I think, you know, especially if you can raise in the US, which I guess what we did, you know, pretty successfully early, you need to be able to capture why you be a $10 million company, theoretically. And tell that story of how this is a very big thing. I mean, one of the things I commonly see, like a lot of decks, is people burying all the good stuff they're doing in like slide 10. You know, it's a lot of storytelling of like, this is the problem, and this is the solution. These are the 6 people that have the problem. But then you get to slide 8, and then like, oh, we have 100,000 users. You're like, well, that needs to be slide 1. And I think it's you need to capture people's attention early. I think the best bit of investment advice I've ever had was from a guy called Keith Gear. He basically said you have to hit dollar signs and investment signs in the first 3 slides. Then everything else becomes a lot easier if you start them off in that mindset. And I think we took that to heart. And even if you're an impact-driven or mission-driven business, you know, you still need to appeal to the same senses and investors, whether they're impact or not. But yeah, I think building a brand and a powerful story that people want to be part of. Our humans too. I mean, you know, obviously they want to be attracted to the shiny thing, the big, world-changing piece, and you have to play to that, I think.
Yeah, actually, one of the first times I ever heard of WeFarm was when we at Tech Nation, you very kindly allowed your Series A deck to be shared, just to give an example to us, because we were helping founders in our ecosystem, you know, with their decks, and it was a thing of beauty, you know, bringing this idea of the ethos and pathos and these notions of really getting to treat people on a human level, but getting that story up front. And I guess you spent quite a bit of money up, whether it was internal or external, getting your storytelling right and getting your designs right. Would you say that was a...
I don't think we spent a lot of money, we spent a lot of time. I mean, something that I kind of obsessed about, if I'm honest. I did a lot of pitching competitions and a lot of kind of open night pitching stuff. I'm just kind of obsessed about how people were reacting to the story. And even things as simple as the order, the way you said things, you could tell where you were losing people. It did become a bit of a concession for me, but we got some money just out of running pitching competitions. But it's amazing once you've done it 50, 100 times, you do realize where you're losing people. If I did it for investor pitches, I used to play a game with myself where I would try to get as long as possible without interrupting with a question. Because that means they're understanding, you're giving them things in the right order, and PCs are terrible at that, so it's a hard game to play. But again, like it sounds silly, but I think these things are super important, and I think that experience of how to tell the story in a way where the dots connected for people was more important than a design and I look at some of our later decks where we weren't successful raising. I think we kind of lost that. We put more money into design and it all looked a lot better, but it didn't have that same magic of storytelling.
Yeah, and you're actually finding joy in the process as well there, which is actually joy to set. But you're trying to play games, so yeah.
Fundraising is always fun. It's such a fun process.
Yeah. The other part, which we've spoken a lot about, is the building of the culture. And I know you were really proud of the culture that you built at WeFarm. And that obviously involves scaling up the team, building the team. I know there's quite a few people in the room tonight who are really interested, not just in fundraising, but in how to build a good team. What are your reflections now that you've got the dust has settled a little bit, of lessons learned or what you did right?
Yeah, it's a lot. I've taken 6 months off since WeFarm closed, and I've reflected a lot on a huge number of mistakes I made. I think it's important to be introspective about things, especially if you plan on going on the journey again. I think for culture, it probably took me too long to realise the value of authenticity and just actually owning who it is you are, as long as that's a good thing. I think a story that springs to mind for me is I remember once, fairly early on when we were raising one of our seed rounds, we got a team of 12 or 15 roughly, and we were 5 or 6 weeks from running out of money. And I remember sitting in the all-hands meeting and showing the slide of the red line going below 0 and equally amounts of people. And after the meeting, about 3 or 4 people on the team walked up to me and said, "This is amazing." Literally, somebody said to me, "I've waited my entire career to work for a company that treats me like this and transparency, and I love it." But 2, 3, maybe 4 people walked up to me after the meeting and also said, "Please never do that again." But I don't care if that's the truth, just don't show us. And I remember being so confused. I remember it's like, how do you build a culture where people think so differently and want such different things? How do you keep both of those people happy? And it took me, I think, far too long to realise this. You build who you are, and that needs to be diverse, and it needs to be open to lots of different backgrounds and personalities, but you need to own who your company is. And if you show that slide, that's who you are. And if you don't want to see that slide, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it does mean you're not right for our company. And I think over time, I probably gained the confidence and learned about authenticity and actually being far clearer about these things. And that was a communal thing as well. It wasn't just me saying this is who we are. It was obviously built by a whole team. But I think that's something we did really well, was really be authentic with people. Maybe a difference between authenticity and radical truth, but I think when WeFarm came to an end as well, people were really bought into it. People knew where the company was. People were offering to work for free, and it was a very powerful example to me of actually we had the culture well. And it took a long time. I made a lot of terrible hires, a lot of mistakes along the way together, and I'm sure there's more of those mistakes ahead. But I think over time you learn at least some of the things you're looking for, particularly as when it comes to senior hiring, people who are really influence the culture.
Yeah, because often founders are having to hire ahead of when you need them. So, the further up you go, I know one Series B company they were working on getting their next head 2 years before they needed them. And so it's having that presence of knowing what you're going to need when and having that plan. Have you got any advice as to how you bring people in? Do you bring that corporate background in? Do you not do that?
I'll be aware where we are. I think it is, because you've got to think ahead, but not too far ahead, because that's fatal as well. And I think Yeah, it's. I think the lessons I've learned, I would be very cautious about making senior hires at an early stage that did not have direct startup experience. Now, me personally, having been started by that, and I'm not to say it's impossible, but I think it's extremely difficult to transition to a C or VP level role at an early stage startup if you have no experience of actually working in one. But I think it's also about the scrappiness. I think for us, one of the mistakes that I reflect on making and the company making is just getting a bit too bloated and thinking of ourselves as a big company too quickly. We raised a big Series A. Investors also want us to spend millions. They don't need to sit around and be in the middle. And I think we probably hire people with a bit more of that. We look very impressive on paper. I think what we found with a few of those people was they wanted to build empires internally, and everything was off of more hires. And it's not necessarily that those hires don't work, it's the culturally turning into a different business. So I can give an example of that. It's not reflective of the people involved, but reflective, I think, of the cultural issue where, one day our kind of CFO brought in a business case for hiring an in-house counsel part-time. The business case was really good. We were spending a lot of money on legal fees for different things, and it would save us money to bring in an in-house counsel. So it's not reflective of the business case. Also not reflective of the person who hired, who is awesome. She is an absolutely fantastic in-house lawyer for a startup. I can't think of anyone better. But culturally, making that hire started to change things in the company. So I would say the product meets where the product team would be saying something like, "Oh, we cancelled the user session for tomorrow because the legal haven't approved it." And you're like, "Oh, okay, like this, this is not a good thing." And that started to replicate throughout the business. And I think where you get senior hires wrong, that kind of stuff it just flows into everything because the empire builds. They hire people that they think are just going to take stuff away from them. If I look at WeFarm in the middle, I think that got away from us a little too much. And actually, even though in later years we were an even bigger company, I think we were hiring scrappier people. And I think that startup mentality. At the end, our CFO was our VP of people. But she'd come through 3 previous startups, which is phenomenal. And she had accountants working under her. She didn't need to be a finance person, but she needs to know how to manage people in a startup and how to get things moving quickly. She did those things superbly. So I think, I would go back to you're not a big company, just because you raise a big round, you're still a startup.
Yeah, and having that hustle, I guess, that hustle all the way.
If I was to aggregate all my reflections, things I would do differently is just be more clinical. Like every time that we wandered off or we thought ourselves too big, that was where all the mistakes are. We've got to be clinical, respectful and critical for sure, but just clinical.
Focus as well, so hard, isn't it?
Shiny things are the enemy.
I know, they're so shiny. Now, obviously, having all collectively experienced what just happened this weekend with Silicon Valley Bank, we know the startup world is a roller coaster. But still, we were all very surprised to hear about WeFarm having to close down, given especially the impact. And like you say, it's the biggest industry, one of the biggest industries on the planet. We'd obviously love to hear you must walk through that period of from the moment that you realised, okay, things are different to the last time, or the other times, should we say. And I guess what would be particularly interesting as well is to understand, was there a key moment, or was it a sudden number of small realizations, that made you realise actually this is different?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think the answer is it's kind of both. And one of my big reflections on this, and I would say, is that the difference between success and failure is so tiny that a lot of times you can tell one was happening or the other one was happening. I think I reflect on a lot of sliding doors moments, and we had those in incredibly positive ways. We raised a massive seed round in the US where the investor originally refused to meet with us. And somehow randomly, I can't remember how to talk, but randomly called us and said, "I saw the deck," and it's actually quite nice to meet. And a week later, we're flying over to write a check. And having a big brand name seed investor from the US, I think it was only one of the 10 companies in Europe in a decade that raised a big seed round in the US. It was game changing for us. It changed all, and that was a sliding doors moment that happened in a good way. And I think at the end, the sliding doors moment happens in the other way, where an investor changed terms on us last minute. I won't go into the details of that. So, but an investor changed terms on us last minute, and suddenly it was catastrophic. was a psychological meltdown where suddenly, oh, everything's collapsing. We were a big business by then in terms of cost and runway. Legally, the only option the board had was to go into administration, because otherwise we would have been trading pretty solidly. But the difference between success and failure is absolutely minuscule. I think it's also important that we do look back at it's not just all the investors' fault, good or bad. The company, I think the starting point for it all was when we made a big transition from our SMS-based system to digital, which is one we absolutely had to make, but it set the company back, obviously, substantially as we made that transition. We've in a lot of ways gone back to being a seed company again, having raised fairly big rounds in Series B. I think one of the challenges we had in our last investment round is that we were no longer that shiny thing for investors, even though our metrics were pretty good and that just pushed digital along really well. That's just occurred at all before. It was a really tricky sell, I think. I did feel very different to me pitching it because I've been used to that excitement and people getting very caught up in it. But ultimately, we were talking to seed investors who we talked to 5 years before. And logically, I tried to sell them that, well, if you're getting the benefit of all of that 5 years, and even though we failed at some things and we're going again, we figured out a lot of stuff in the way, so logically you should be more excited. But that's not the way things work, right? And so it was a really tough sell. And then, the round was a struggle, but I think we thought it was coming together. And we kind of managed the team and everybody through that. I think we thought we were coming out the other end, and then kind of, fell apart. We obviously knew that it was tenuous. But it was always heavy, right? We've had that slide with running out of money in 3 weeks like 16 times before. So, I guess you get so used to it that, I think it was probably, we're fine, we'll go again, and then suddenly it's not. And suddenly you're in administration and fun.
I think from a personal experience, how do you navigate that? When things go wrong, you're then still a leader, you are still the leader to over 100 staff that are absolutely devastated because they really believe in the mission.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you now reflect back on that you did well, or how did you handle that? Because I know we've talked a lot about burnout as well, and
sure.
Something you're very open about, which is just the stress and the toll it took on you. So how did you handle that actual closure part?
Yeah, so I think for the team part, very critical about a lot of things, but I think that's something we did super well. I'm very, very proud of the way we managed our culture and team through that, and everyone went to bat for us. I think what I reflect on is that culture matters in big moments, right? 99% of the time, culture doesn't matter as much. I guess it was a little, but it's really when it comes to those big, once every 6 months moments where the company is doing something else significant to your life that you get the benefit or not of the culture you built. And that, it felt like all the time we put into that authentic culture and all the times we kind of coached people through that and built that, came to fruition. And in a weird way, when we had to close, and we got people trusted us because they knew you could trust us because we'd been trustworthy as leaders through different things, and I think that's huge. We saw how much people cared. I think navigating the difference between not panicking the team in the build up to it, but also maintaining the authentic culture and making sure that nobody was too surprised and that they were kind of ready for it was huge. So it wasn't out of the blue. We coached people through it. We said, even when we thought the investment was going through, we had said people we might have to give you notice legally because we have less than 2 months money in the bank account. We hope that would be a formality and you can just come back to work. Keep working and let's do it. And I think so we've navigated that really well. And I think, everyone have still in contact with almost everyone in the team. And I think if we started WeFarm against the world, everyone would come back. And I think that's the best thing we can say about culture. For me personally, I think it was maybe a little different. I think, we started to talk about people, building WeFarm back up again and raising $1 million and going again. And I honestly, I couldn't face it. And I had to tell people in those discussions, no, I think this is it. I think I'd been doing it for 10 years by that point, and through all the highs and a lot of lows and all the times I felt like it's off the floor. And I was pretty burnt out. And I think one of my reflections is having taken some time off. I think 3 months into that time off, I would have told you it was fine and I was really enjoying my time off. And then almost quite literally, almost quite dramatically, one day I just woke up and felt better. and I felt energized about bed. My kids feel creative, and you know, like I wanted to, go on with the day. It wasn't really dramatic about how I felt before, but that was really eye-opening for me, because I kind of realized that I hadn't felt like that for years, at least pre-COVID, I would say. And it's kind of eye-opening to me that it's taken like 3 months to get there, and it sort of, I think, probably proved me right for not trying to pick the business off the floor again. I think the other thing that brought home to me is, and I know founders say this a lot, and I'll reinforce it massively, that self-care is hugely important, right? Because if I look back at the last 18 months or 2 years of WeFarm, did the team and company see the best of me? No. Not to a catastrophic extent that I think it was the reason we failed, but I was probably operating at 80% through that on reflection. And that's not good, right? Because you want your CEOs and founders to be operating at a really high level through those big moments. So I think I should have taken care of myself from all, you know, we had investors in the US, 3 offices in Africa, all the travel, jet lag, all the, you know, funding rounds. I wish I'd maybe taken more time to not get into that burnout space, because I think it would have ultimately been beneficial to the company. But, you know, we live and learn, right? And I think it's now.
And in the moment, it's very hard to do. There's that quote, isn't there? It's like, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. And I suppose there's a little bit of that as well. But I'm going to just ask one more question before we come to the audience. So make sure you get your questions ready. And if we can have Julie, if you can come find the other microphone, which is around here, then you can make sure that we can all hear you. But so many questions. We could stay here all night, couldn't we? But we won't. Now that you're reflecting and that you've come past and you're feeling creative again, really, what's next? Okay.
Yeah, I think I swore I was going to do another company in the first few weeks, and I definitely did another company. I mean, it's all I know how to do, right? You go through a 10-year university, it feels like, and I definitely want to do something again. I think for the next few months, I'm going to do some entrepreneur residence work and a venture partner role and help other startups maybe navigate some of this and just get a bit of a break from founding a company. But I've got my eye on a few ideas. Watch this space.
Well, there's a collective happiness in the room that Kenny is thinking of the next thing. So we are going to close off the live stream now, just because it's easier for us to